I'm Ted Berg. I am joined in the flesh by Brian Bassett from thejetsblog.com. Brian, what do the Jets have to do to beat the Raiders?
They just have to play their game, but I think, the question is, what is their game this week? You've got Colin Baxter in there instead of Nick Mangold at center. So on offense, I would say running the ball is going to be hard for them, so they'll probably play the edges, short passes kind of stuff. But they do want to run the ball because this team can be taken advantage of once you get past that defensive line. And then defensively, basically just limit Jason Campbell, their quarterback. He's got lots of great skill players. So for them, it's, take care of Darren McFadden and Denarius Moore and those guys and get to Campbell, and they'll be fine.
Well, let's talk about Baxter for a second. I killed him earlier in the week. I guess I didn't realize that he had been on the team for all of 2 weeks. Brandon Moore said he didn't even know his name when he came in the game. There's got to be a pretty strong learning curve for this guy with so little experience, getting up to speed. But he's got a tough task in the Raiders' defensive line.
He really does. And, like you said, he came in, he basically, came in off waivers. Callahan is coaching him on the sideline during the game. This isn't good. But, the point is he's the backup center. Could the Jets have acquired
really
other players?
Third string center.
Right, third string center. But, he's, because Turner's out, he's the number 2. So I would say, yes, he didn't do a great job. But at the same time, the coaching staff and everybody else has to think, okay, is this guy capable of going? So right, even though he's new, he's playing probably the hardest job on the offensive line to just jump into. If you're going in at right tackle, you know your job. As a center, you're making line calls, you're making adjustments, you've got to snap the ball, then, do whatever you're supposed to do, whether block or run. So, he has a lot on his plate. And so while, right, we are bashing him a little bit, I don't think that it's necessarily unfair because of the responsibility that he has.
You're talking to a former center. I know all about that. What do the Jets have to do? Is it likely that they'll move away from the run game a little bit and try to exploit the Raiders secondary?
Yes, right. So basically, I think what they're going to do a lot is you're going to see the short passes, which will drive Jets fans crazy. But really, that's the best way to go. I think if you can get some of their secondary and their linebackers in isolation, the Jets can take advantage of those guys. They really can. And, the issue is, their defensive line is great up front, but anything beyond that, it's questionable. So all the Jets need to do is avoid that defensive line, or, if Colin Baxter can play, they can play through it. If Nick Mangold was there, they just play through that defensive line, no question. But that's not the situation this week.
What about the Jets on defense? You spoke a little bit about it before. The Raiders have a ton of speed. Is that worrisome, given some of the personnel in the Jets secondary?
Yeah, I think when you look at the Jets and their players like Denarius Moore, who had a great game last week, and Darren McFadden, who's obviously a solid player. For the Jets, what they need to do is just the linebackers like Bart Scott and David Harris, they need to do what they always do, or most often do, is make their tackles. And then, when you've got Cromartie and Rivas on the outside, it's not really so much a concern of guys just burning by. But so what I would say is solid tackle, gap control football, and the Jets will be fine. The Raiders are gonna bump up against a 3rd and long eventually, and the Jets will just turn loose on them.
Well, how's the Jets pass rush stack up against the Raiders line? Because last week they looked pretty good against the Jaguars.
They did. They had a great week. The Jaguars obviously not a great team. The Raiders, though, they have a good offensive line so far this year. But the question is, they really haven't played any premier pass rush unit, or seen kind of a varied unit like the Jets have. So I would say this week the Jets should be able to get after, but it's not going to be like last week where they're just abusing the quarterback left, right, and center.
Are they going to use Cromartie on special teams again?
I would say if the Jets feel like they need a boost, obviously it's an away game. So if they are in a situation where they feel like, gosh, we really need a spark here, I would say they would use him. But, he's their second starting cornerback, and you can't lose that guy.
Especially with a team like the Raiders, who have a lot of options with receiver.
Absolutely. So I would say I think they'll use him if they feel like their back's to the wall. But I would say otherwise, look for Jeremy Curley, Joe McKnight. And what I would say specifically is look for Jeremy Curley on punts. I think he could have a big day on punt returns.
Is the environment a factor at all? Does that matter that they're going into the black hole?
I don't think so much. I think it's more the team. You think about 2 years ago when they went there, the Jets won pretty easily. Mark Sanchez eating a hot dog and all that. But, I would say I think it's more about the team. And this is a better team than the Jets saw 2 years ago. So, the Jets will have a little bit more of their work cut out for them. And the fans will be behind them. But you know what? I mean, they got a series of 3 games on the road here. So they got to get this started right.
Give me a prediction. Do they win?
I do think they win. I think they'll win 27-21.
Come back next week and talk about it?
I'd love to.
Thanks so much. Remember, for all the latest on Gangrene, check out thejetsblog.com and sny.tv.